Japan's Supras and Germany's BMWs to India's... Which country actually has the best cars? Italy. Yeah, Ferrari, Lamborghini, blah, blah. Fuck off. It's Fiat time. The Italian Mini Cooper. It's slow as crud, unless we're talking about corners. That's where these bad boys shine. The Fiat 500 is ugly as slow as but can take a turn like it's on rails. So yeah, obviously Fiat isn't the best brand from Italy. We've got Ferrari, of course, making bangers like the F40, the 250 GTO, the 812 Superfast, and just way too many other cars to list. But I'm not gonna give them the crown just yet because we can't forget about Pagani. I also can't forget about Alfa Romeo with the Italian BMWs. This country is a tough one. I'm gonna give it to Ferrari, even though they're an asshole brand for not letting people modify their cars. Still think they're the best cars that Italy has made. Canada's cars suck. I'm gonna give the best brand award to this thing because of the T-Rex. It's time for some freedom! The USA produces the most badass eagle-screeching, gun-shooting, gas-guzzling cars of all time. I'm not talking about the Cybertruck though. And dude, the US knows ball. Like the Cadillac CTS-V wagon? That shit's dope! Also, the 2005 Ford GT was an instant American classic. The Dodge Viper scares me, and Corvettes are pure badassery. Honestly, I didn't used to love Corvettes, but then I helped my friend work on a C4 and it made me understand the hype. Those cars are pretty freaking raw and sendy. Why the hell do American cars make you sit so far back though? When I sit in one, I feel like I could roll the window down and touch the back wheel. Maybe that's why they have such a bad reputation for handling, but a really good reputation for looking fucking awesome. Hell yeah, brother. I personally think the American car brand battle is between Ford and Chevy. That's coming from a non-American car enthusiast, so take that with a grain of... To ease your mind, I'll give the crown to Ford for now because the Raptor R is dope and the old F-250s are really cool, and the 3rd generation Ford Ranger.
Now let's focus on Europe for a little bit, since they got some crazy shit you might not know about.
Turkey dropped the TOG T10X, which looks super boring to me and has a terrible interior, but I just really like saying TOG. So that's definitely a point. What the f is an Andal Bokek? The United Kingdom. While they do have some interesting food choices and design choices when it comes to cars, the UK definitely has dropped some heat. When I say interesting design choices, I'm just talking about any car from Reliant and the City Rover. Yuck! Okay, that being said, the UK dropped McLaren, Aston Martin, Jaguar, Rolls-Royce, Lotus, and like a shit ton of other bangers. Rolls-Royce has the Phantom, of course, which is just peak luxury. And the Aston Martin with the DBS Superleggera. I love the brap noise that these things make. Jaguar dropped the Shaguar, which is Austin Powers' daily. I'm kidding, the Jaguar F-Type R is a mega Jag win. And Lotus made the Fox body, Carlton, which looks freaking cool. And oh yeah, the McLaren F1. Okay, out of these, the best brand from the UK is going to Mini. Germany. Germany. What a great country. The nature, the beer, the pretzels, it's all amazing. But all of those beautiful things mean absolutely nothing compared to their cars. And holy shit, these Germans can drive them however fast they want. It's just so unfair. So what are Germany's best cars? The Mercedes 190e is such a beautiful car. Mercedes actually crafted the most exquisite looking car when they made the 190e. Just look at this thing, right? As a BMW glazer, I think these things look nicer than E30s. Also, fun fact about the 190e, some trims had self-leveling rear suspension, so that's just badass, I guess. This is gonna sound like an absolute generic cornball opinion, but the Porsche 911 GT3 RS is such a good car from Germany. I can't help but give it a spot in the top 3 best cars from Germany. You already know all about it since it's so popular, so I'll move on to my next pick. Okay, this one might come as a bit of a shock to you. No, I'm just messing with you. It's the BMW E46 M3. Beautiful looking car, raw driving experience, and such a cool engine. 333 horsepower from that straight 6, probably feels so good to drive. Guys, can you please spare $1 so I can get one of these, please? I'm gonna give Germany's best brand to Porsche. Porsche knows how to make some good damn cars.
Bonus round.
Brazil also has a super cool and weird car community. They have so many front-wheel drive cars that most people lift the back for better traction. I think it's cool that they have such a strong underground car community, even though they're kind of set back by having so many front-wheel drive cars. That being said, I think the best cars that this country has ever produced are all rear-wheel drive. The Chevrolet Opala SS. badass. This thing just looks like any other American muscle car, but it's Brazilian, so I guess that's cool. The Volkswagen SP2 is way too cool looking. I really like the stance and the headlights. Chevy made the Puma GTB in Brazil, which is also awesome looking. I think it again looks like any other American muscle car, but with a little bit of Brazilian swaz. I'm gonna give Volkswagen the best brand award for Brazil. France. Oh, bonjour, je m'appelle Gassi. Yeah, the French don't really have Jacques shit to offer. I'm kidding, they made Bugatti. I've talked a lot about Bugattis in my best of every cylinder video because as you probably know, these cars have insane engines and they look bad freaking ass too. Also, Puget is super cool. They made some of the best hot hatches like the 205 GTI. Looks just like a French VW in my opinion and packs a pretty solid punch. And you cannot forget about Alpine. The A110 looks so mean. I don't know what to think of the fog lights on the newer models, but they look badass on the old one. They don't make dumb power, but they're such light cars that you don't really need all that. France, the best car from your country is not Renault, even though Renault made the Cilio V6. They just fucked up so badly with the Avantime that I'm not even gonna consider them the best car brand. It's gonna be Bugatti, right? I don't know who else it would go to. Sweden! Yes! It's time for some beautiful brands to be mentioned. Whenever I think of hooning around in the snow, I think of Swedish cars. To all the Subaru dudes, spare your comment. I know you exist too. But anyway, these Swedish people know how to make some super safe and super cool looking cars. Although they up the Saab 79X, Saab also made some sweet cars. The 900 Turbo, for example, was a sweet ride. But Saab, I can't give you guys a crown sadly. If your cars were that good, then maybe they'd still exist. But I'll toss you guys a participation award for that Aero wagon. Volvo can have my children. Volvo is just such a cool brand and they make a shit ton of cool cars. The 850R, the V70R, the S60R, and of course all the variations of the 240. Volvo just knows how to do it. But what do you think? Is Volvo above Koenigsegg? Dude, the Koenigsegg Agera RS is just like, what the fuck were these Swedish dudes snorting? Adderall? Fentanyl? Yeah, this shit is just like peak. If you've got one of these, you might as well just drive it for a bit, then die. You finish a campaign. Obviously, Koenigsegg makes faster, cooler, and more expensive cars, but that's not a good reason to put it above Volvo in my opinion. I'm gonna toss Volvo the crown for Sweden, but feel free to argue with me in the comments because I don't know how nicely that decision sits with me.
Wow, we've been through a lot of major countries already, but we still haven't even touched on places like Japan or Egypt. Wait, what cars does Egypt even make?
Egypt. Yikes.
Wow. Was ass. Subscribe so you don't have to drive that car, twin.
Australia. Australia has some of the most weird and interesting car communities out of all of these countries, and it's awesome. Have you seen those burnout competitions? Ford Australia used to make the Ford Barra engine, which is basically an Australian 2J, and it is awesome. You can find this engine on some of the Ford Falcons and some variations of the Ford Territory. That's definitely a point for Ford. The Holden GTS makes way more power than it should, and the Holden Monaro CV8 looks so nice. Ah! The Proton Jumbuck sucks, so Proton definitely isn't getting the crown. Between Holden and Ford, I'm gonna give it to Holden just because I like the look of the CV8. Oh shit, but I also like the sound of the Barra engines. Maybe I'll just give the win to Ford because of the Capri Turbo being badass, so it's gonna go to Ford again. India. Well, these cars are definitely something, like the Riva G-Wiz. These dudes actually named a fucking car G-Wiz. Well, anyway, there's a few Indian bangers at least. Tata makes some cool cars like the Tata Safari. Looks kind of like a Land Cruiser in my opinion, so that's gonna give Tata the crown for Indian. Let me know if India made a better car than the Tata Safari because that's the coolest one in my opinion.
Now let's see what Asia has going on.
Vietnam. Unfortunately, Vietnam doesn't really have anything cool as far as cars go. A company called VinFast basically dominates the market, so I'll give them the crown. Japan. Japan is historically the most badass country as far as cars go, according to me. You know that one dude, Smokey something? That dude is so badass.
Man, I'm finna whip this hoe.
And all those other guys too. Japan has produced some insane cars like the Toyota Supra, the R34 Skyline, the Honda NSX. Japan is pretty hard to beat. But you know what else is hard to beat? Making a car shittier than the Mitsubishi Mirage. This thing definitely docks a point from Japan. Luckily, Mitsubishi is cool otherwise. They made the Lancer Evo, the Eclipse, and some other fire shark. They made Subaru, which is cool. Toyota, which is a classic. Lexus, which is just Toyota but cooler. Mazda, Honda, Acura, Sushi, Nissan, Infiniti. Mini trucks. One day I will own enough property to drive a mini truck on it and haul my mini bike on the mini truck. I love Japan. I'm gonna have to give the best brand from Japan to Toyota. Malaysia, the Proton Satria GTI is so sweet looking. The front lip, the headlights, the hatchbackness, the dual exhaust. This thing looks sweet, and people mod the shit out of these cars. The Bufori Geneva is exactly the car I would drive if I became an evil villain. Peruta makes cars so boring that I'm gonna give Proton the #1 spot because of the Satria GTI. China makes some weird cars. The Landwind X7 is just a Range Rover clone. It's such a weird car. A Chinese company called NIO makes a cool futuristic looking car called the EP9. I like the way it looks on the outside since it's just so over the top, but I don't like the interior at all. There's no reason to have all those screens. The BYD Seal looks boring as shit, and the Xpeng P7 also looks boring as shit. So I guess the winner by default is NIO. Indonesia. I mess with the Datsun Terrace, but otherwise I'm not interested in Indonesia's cars. So South Korea. The Kia boys would be nothing without South Korea. South Korea makes the absolute best NPC cars ever. Kias, Hyundais, and I guess Genesis is cool even though it's still a Hyundai. South Korea is trying to dig themselves out of their car history by dropping the Kia Stinger and the Hyundai N thingy. These cars are an upgrade from the horseshit cars that South Korea has dropped in the past, I suppose, but they're still not fantastic in my opinion. But more on the Genesis. I feel like this brand is the biggest step forward for South Korea because the Genesis G70, for example, comes with that turbo V6 making 365 horsepower, which is 1 horsepower for every day of the year. And I personally think the design looks nice. This is a reasonable attempt at making a car to compete with a BMW 3 Series or an Audi A4 or something. And then they made the G80, which is a bit bigger and kind of competes with a 5 Series or an A6. Even though it's a new brand, I'm gonna give Genesis the crown for South Korea at the moment. I don't like the fucking Kia Soul. Mexico. The Vool 05 from Mexico is sweet. It looks like a car that you could only drive with your best friend because it's so tiny and the dudes look so funny sitting in it. The Mistretta MXT has such a cool looking interior and also looks like an Audi TT mixed with a 350Z and then swazzed up a little bit. I don't like the Zakua MX3 EV at all. I might even say I hate it. Vool is definitely the winner of Mexico. The United Arab Emirates. Holy fuck. These dudes are rich. Have you ever seen the W Motors Lycan Hypersport? This thing actually looks like a transformer. This country is just a GTA 5 lobby. What the fuck is the Devil 16? You want a little bit of car with that exhaust? I can't forget about the Zaruk Sand Racer either. I didn't even know cars like this existed outside of Hot Wheels. Also, they just gold-plated a G-Wagon for the sake of it. I'm sure that amount of spending freedom is pretty nice. The Generelli Design 1 is another funny buddy car, but also badass. Out of all these cars from the United GTA 5 lobby, I've gotta give the win to the Devil, right? I mean, all of these cars are just so insane that I don't even know how to put one above the other. I probably don't even have to say this, but correct my opinion in the comments. Saudi Arabia. The Toyota Land Cruiser 300 from Saudi Arabia is cool. It looks like it could get over a lot of stuff. Also, the Isuzu D-Max Desert. This thing looks so badass. I love this thing. It kind of looks like it has a truck bed just for the sake of it. It's such a small truck bed that you couldn't fit anything in there, but you wouldn't want anything in there if you're jumping over sand dunes anyway. These are all huge cars. I guess they don't have to worry about gas prices. So I'll give Isuzu the winner for the D-Max because that thing looks awesome.
Next up is Africa, and low-key, I didn't know they were cooking twin.
Kenya, starting off so strong with the Safari Rally Land Cruiser 70. I just love everything about it. Can you imagine pulling up to your bud's house in this shit? The Mobius 2 looks like a plastic G-Wagon, but I kind of like it. I don't know. I imagine it'd be practical in Kenya somehow. The Volkswagen Polo Vivo is locally built and looks like regular traffic, but has a little bit of potential, I guess. I'll give it to Toyota for the Safari Rally Land Cruiser 70. Morocco. Laraki wins Morocco. No argument needed. So I guess Nigeria knows a little bit of ball knowledge. They made this knockoff G-Wagon, which looks pretty cool in my opinion, and then the Puget 504, which is also cool looking. None of the other cars that Nigeria has made interest me in the slightest, so I'm gonna just say the knockoff G-Wagon brand is my favorite from Nigeria. South Africa. South Africa has some cool ones. We got the Piranha with the Z1. I think this thing looks pretty sweet. If you think this thing is ugly, you at least have to agree that this thing looks super aerodynamic. aerodynamic. I really like the Ford Sierra XR8. Although it looks a little bit cross-eyed, it's got a very cool looking chassis and can be built up to look sweet. South Africa also produced a super nice and pretty rare BMW, the BMW 333i, which was only made between 1985 and 1986. It's just an E30 with an E28 engine, and it's kind of like the first BMW M Lite. If you want the M performance but not the M price tag, then you should go with the 333i. I like it. I'll give BMW the crown for South Africa. I think Sweden, Japan, and the UK have the coolest cars in the world. Let me know what you think in the comments though. And if you have the time, go watch this video next.